Welcome to a new year of Sports Geek, episode 293. On this week's episode, I chat with designer Tyson Beck about sports creative and starting his own trading card company.
Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here is your host who is looking forward to meeting you in New York, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, my name is Sean Callanan, and I'm really pleased to be back. You probably do believe I actually did have to blow the dust off my Zoom recorder to do this intro. So really pleased to be back, and thank you for DJ Joel for that very kind intro. I get DJ Joel to read out all these different intros for every single episode, and sometimes they're trying to preempt when I might be traveling next. And so I think I've had this looking forward to meeting you in New York intro available for the last 18 months. And so I thought, why not? I'm going to use it because I am looking forward to meeting people in New York. I look forward to the day when I can travel and do future Sports Geek trips. Hopefully you are safe and sound in your part of the world in the crazy time that has been 2020 and now is 2021. If you're finding the podcast the first time, welcome. If you're back and enjoyed the Sports Geek replay series over the Christmas New Year period, I really do appreciate it. My name is Sean Callanan. I am the founder of Sports Geek and the host of this podcast. You can find me on the internet at Sean Callanan on most platforms. You can contact me the old-fashioned way, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. As always, you can find this podcast on all good podcasting platforms. If it lets you do a review, I'd really appreciate it. Just trying to push those reviews past the 3 figures would be really appreciative. Before I get stuck in to today's conversation with Tyson Beck, a renowned sports graphic designer, just want to quickly talk about some of the things that we at Sports Geek can help you do. We can be running, and our goal is to drive more revenue from digital. Got to rework on that pitch. We can do that with the digital dollars process. We can help you with content. We can help your commercial team pitch digital. We can help your sponsors understand your assets. We can help you with membership campaigns and ticket sales and the like. Work with you in understanding your audience and the data that you've got. And also looking at tackling new plans and new platforms. So please reach out. As I said, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. I absolutely love working with podcast listeners, and I hope to do that more of that in 2021. Don't forget, Sports Biz Zoom calls are returning. They were the thing that helped keep me sane in 2020, meeting up with friends and colleagues in the sports business scene. We ran them on a weekly basis, twice a week. I think I hosted up to 70 sports business calls, over 700 attendees over the year. I now know how to moderate a Zoom call with 50 people on it. We're going to bring them back. Every second Wednesday of the month to begin with. We'll see what the appetite is. If people want more, please let me know. We'll potentially do it twice a month. So it's going to be Wednesdays, 10 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is around 5 o'clock PST for our friends in North America. So it's just the Wednesday. No Tuesday nights, unfortunately, because Gravitas, our esports team, is now playing in the newly launched LCO, and they will be playing on Tuesday and Wednesday night. So my attention and focus will be otherwise. So don't forget, February 10 in Australia, February 9 in North America. That's when we're going to have our first Sports Biz Zoom call. Like to see some of those returning faces. We'll tackle the topic 2021 and what will we do now. So go to sportsgeekhq.com/Zoom calls. And that, I think, is enough. Thank you very much, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for those of you who are Patreon subscribers. You can be a subscriber and support what we're doing in the sports business space from a content point of view across podcasts, newsletters, and the like, and the Zoom calls. You can go and support it by going to sportsgeek.com/Patreon. You would think that I haven't done this in a while, hence the stumbling, but my apologies. Let's get stuck into the show. I'm really pleased to connect with Tyson Beck. He is a renowned graphic artist and designer based in Adelaide, but is doing a lot of work in the sports scene. I've known Tyson for a long time. We've connected via the Twitter and been following his work and what he's done to both raise his profile in the digital world, but then also, I guess, transform how graphic design is looked at and viewed in the world of sport. So really, really interesting guy to chat to, but also in what he's doing in the trading card scene, in starting and designing his own trading cards and dealing directly with the players. So I think it's he's doing some disruption in that space. So I think you really enjoy this chat with Tyson Beck. Very happy to welcome to the podcast Tyson Beck, well-known sports designer. You can find him at tysonbeck.com. Tyson, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sean. How you going? Thanks for having me on.
No worries. We're going to try to do our best to get around the difficulties around the Australian internet, which is something that has probably challenged us both over the lockdown and 2020 overall. But people might obviously should know you from your designs. They've probably seen them on the internet, either on Twitter or Instagram. What drew you into graphic design?
I mean, it was really kind of like the only thing that I was good at in high school. But I didn't really like the creative space. Like I wasn't like kind of, very artsy and all that kind of stuff. I just loved sports. So, but I knew I definitely wasn't good enough to become an athlete. And that was my goal. That was my dream, to be a professional athlete. They were the idols and everything you wanted to do. So I thought, well, hang on. The only thing that I'm good at is like design at school and playing around with a computer and making cool things. And I was like, why don't I just kind of like blend what I love and what I'm good at doing together? And that's pretty much just how it all started, because back when I was doing it in 2003, there really wasn't like a big sports design. There was no sports design community. There was nothing like that back then. So for me, it was just kind of like, it wasn't like looking and seeing stuff online. It was literally just like doing what I was good at and what I liked doing and putting it together. And that's kind of how it all happened.
So it's a bit of that, some of the myth, I think, of follow your passion, but then also follow your work. Like how much is that mix of you're doing stuff that you like and then you become better at it, and because you become better at it, you become more passionate about it. Like you hear a lot of people like, you're probably the same, having young designers reach out to you saying, how do I get in? That looks so cool. What's some of the advice you give to those young designers trying to break in to the market now?
I mean, like, to be honest, like I do get that question like a lot. Like literally, I might get hundreds a month of questions, and it's all very similar, all the same questions. And it's basically people looking for shortcuts. Shortcuts on the way in. And I mean, I'm just very transparent with them. I just tell people like, there's literally no shortcuts. There's no magic button or anything. If you've begun the question saying this is what you love doing, well, then there's no issue with it, because if it is what you love doing, you won't mind putting in the long hours, the hard work into it to try and build, I guess your skills up and your connections and just everything else and your name up. But, I tell people like straight up, like, I'm very transparent. If it isn't their passion and if it isn't something they absolutely love doing, they might not be in the right field if they're looking for like a quick turnaround thing. Like if they want to just, finish TAFE or finish uni and, become like a senior designer or sports designer or something like in like an agency or like a sports team or something within the year or 2 years after finishing up, or not even studying at all, just like finishing high school and just playing around yourself. And I think it's definitely a long journey. And if you love what you do, you shouldn't be kind of turned away by the long journey.
I mean, you did mention a year. I just want to ask, how long did it take you to be an overnight success, Tyson?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I feel like it was all like timing, because like I feel like if I think I'm very fortunate that I was doing it when barely anyone was doing it. So kind of like my name gets kind of used, and like kind of just played around a bit, just because like, oh, I've got like a bit of history and a bit of kind of traction in terms of what I've done. But I feel like if I was starting now, it would be much harder, because there's just a massive sea of amazing, talented people. Like what I was doing when I was like 18, like I thought I was okay when I was 18. I talk to kids now who are 13 that would kill me when I was like, how good was I like 22? Like they're insane. Like, yep. I guess, software's changed, and just the accessibility. Like there was no Instagram or Behance or Twitter or anything. Like there was nothing to compare your work to back then. Like, so it's insane. So I reckon, I started playing around in 2003. I don't reckon I become kind of, like my work was really noticeable until probably 2010, I'd say. So 7 years.
Yeah. I think I started Sports Geek 2009, 2010 range, and remember coming by you and again, you were doing that balance of, you're obviously doing your own work. And this is the other piece that I think the demystifying the graphics is like, oh, you're doing all these cool stuff on Instagram, and that must be you doing all the time, the same way that I get, you must be doing podcasting all the time. It's like, no, podcasting is 1 hour of my week, and that's what I put out publicly. There was a couple of things. You're obviously, doing some jobs in sport, probably doing other graphics jobs, but then you started doing a few, I'm going to have a play and I'm going to put my style out there. What were some of your early designs and artwork, and some of the things that caught the attention both of fans, but then started getting some cool collaborations and players and NBA type noticing you?
It's kind of funny looking back. Like, so how it first started was like, I would just make wallpapers. I'd go on forums and people would be like, oh, like the teams aren't giving fans wallpapers for their computers. Like desktop wallpapers used to be a big thing. Like people might not know. It used to be huge. Everyone would want a nice desktop wallpaper, and the teams' websites or anything, they might one with the logo on it, and that's it. But there was nothing with players or anything. So I'd be on forums and someone would be like, oh, can I have like a Steve Francis wallpaper? Can I have a Kevin Garnett wallpaper? And I'd be like, okay, I'll make it. Like I'm at school, I'm doing nothing. And I'd make it. And I would have on the bottom of my bottom of my wallpapers, my username on the forum was Kobe_Brian_is_da_best. I was very young. I didn't know how to market myself. And then when that became too long, I put it as KBIDB. And then in high school, when I did my year 12 design project, I submitted it, and I remember there was some girl or guy, I can't remember, someone in the class approached the teacher and was saying like I was stealing all my work because like, look at this online, it says KBIDB. And I was like, that's me. And like, they didn't believe me. The teacher didn't believe me. It's like, oh, it's the first thing you Google, like Tim Duncan wallpaper. It's the first. And I was like, that's my work. Like, and they didn't believe me. And so that made me think I got to put Tyson Beck on everything. So I actually think that really helped me grow in terms of just getting the audio, people noticing, my work and everything, because everything that I did, it just had my name at the bottom. And then I guess like my style, like it was good because like I didn't have clients. I didn't have, the back and forth of like working with marketing teams or creative teams. It was just whatever I liked was good enough for me. And I guess over time, well then I guess you call passion projects or personal projects became, client work. And then I was literally, I've been doing that since 2008 pretty much. Every day I'm just doing sports client work, and, I guess now we're looking at 13 years later, like the fun of it definitely has drained out of it. Just because you're working through like changes and requests and approvals and all that. It's definitely not like just making stuff personally. And that's kind of what's driven me into just now just working, not working for myself, but just actually working, building up products and stuff like that. So then like I just get the final say. I don't have to work with like the NBA and get their approvals and all that stuff for like a design. I can just, work with the player directly and just do whatever I want.
So you're jumping ahead. We're going to get to that work and some of those projects, but I think it's really interesting. Again, sort of if there's people listening, and my son's in graphic design, just finished uni, and I've pointed to your portfolio before, saying, "Hey, this is a way to put your name out there." How did you move from doing those cool things to getting noticed to, now I'm doing more? Now I'm going to be doing client work, and that freelancer's dilemma of knowing your value, the old, that looks great. Can you just do one for me? I haven't got any budget, but exposure, right? How did you navigate that space?
Man, I've honestly said it before. Like I for other people, I think you should never really work for exposure. Like in this space, I think it's bad because then it will just be a forever cycle of then people will always work for exposure and then no one will expect to pay for everything. But like I've said it before, you can create your own exposure. Like literally, like I put there was one project I did where I was just putting old NBA players with new haircuts, and within I think it was 24 hours. Like it was just a bit of fun, thinking of something that hadn't been done before. Like, and that got 28 million views in like 24 hours or something. And I was just like, well, I got 28 million exposure, like 28 million, like whatever it is, a reach or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it's like, well, like I could have been doing exposure projects until I was dead, until I got 28 million views. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like if you want to do something like get exposure, you can most certainly do it yourself. Or then like, I don't know, like, it is really a touchy subject because I would never tell someone like, oh, you shouldn't do it. I just don't think it should be like the go-to sort of thing.
It is a tough one. Sport is notorious for it. Interns and people doing long hours, those kind of things. But I think one of the things that I took away, and I do remember that haircut series that you did, and everyone having a good old laugh about it, is how designers have changed from, if I go to the Mad Men days, here's the brief, please design me something and come back and just be told, to you're expected, you've got to understand these platforms and be creative. And I'm working now with graphic designers in sports teams. They shouldn't just be passive and waiting. They should be coming back and going, oh, we should do this. And yes, it potentially gets commercialized, all of those kind of things. So that's also a muscle that you need to develop as a designer these days, to go, I'm not just talented from a look and feel and tone, but I can bring some strong ideas.
Yeah, no, that's well spoken. And it's not really like creative people usually just kind of just like doing the work, but they don't like doing the business side of stuff, or the heavy thinking like that. And I mean, that's what sets people apart. Like I'll be upfront. Like I'm far from the best designer. Like I don't understand. There's a lot of creatives out there in sports. Like it's kind of like they have it as like competition where they want to do better than this other person, all that. I just don't think that's healthy. And, I don't care if someone doesn't think my work's great, because that's just their personal opinion, and it doesn't bother me. But, for me, it's like I feel like I'm a better business person than I am a designer. And I think that's what's helped me because, I'm coming up with, trends, or I'm coming up with new avenues of work that other, designers haven't done before. So once I do it, well, then other clients will reach out, go, can we do something similar with you? And, I'll do something with the NBA, and then someone MLS or something will reach out, or, and then that's kind of like, you got to kind of keep up with, being at the forefront of ideas and just creative processes. And I guess that's what I've tried to do, and definitely not stay, just stay stagnant. And, I'm just always trying to change my style as well. So.
And is there a particular, you talked about Behance before, but is there a particular platform that is the platform of choice for designers? Is it Instagram and then Daylight?
Yeah, I mean, I need to update my portfolio. I don't think I've updated my Bahant properly in ages. I don't have a portfolio online. That's the funny thing is, like, I guess I don't really have I don't have a proper portfolio. I put up some stuff. I might put 1% of my work up online. Like, a lot of people DM me on Instagram and go, "Oh, you haven't posted something in like a few months." And it's like, yeah, because I've done literally like 100 projects and I have no time to post. And they don't really understand what's happening in the background. So I think Twitter is probably the best.
Okay.
My personal opinion, just from speaking with other designers, especially in the US, you'll get found on Twitter so much easier than Instagram. Okay. And I've seen a lot of success stories, and just like random teams reach out to freelancers or just fans, like, you know, like fans of teams that also design, and a lot of them spark from Twitter. So I'd actually say that's probably the best, if I'm going to be honest. And then Instagram, and then I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever had a work request come from Behance, but I can't really confirm that.
It's a bit of covering your bases, but like, it is that piece of showing your work, whether it's these personal projects, some of the professional stuff, so people know. And I think also from a design point of view, especially on Twitter, we have seen a few of the sports creatives, because it is a really strong community, like, go behind the scenes and give that time lapse of, end of game score graphic that you think is great, and you look at it for half a second. Here's all the work that goes into it. And that's great for, the behind the scenes and the graphics, nerds, if you will, but then also gives a great appreciation for other people that just, the total experience.
Yeah, and when you mentioned about the personal project, I don't think people should be not afraid, but I don't think they should be embarrassed or shy of saying this was a personal project. I think there's a lot of miscommunications, like when people put up projects on Behance, and they'll be like, 2018 NBA Finals, like graphics or like score, like templates and stuff like that. And it's like, well, like it wasn't. It was just like a fun personal thing. Yep. And a lot of the times it's written as in like it was for like the NBA, or it was for, I don't know, Manchester United or whatever it is. I don't understand that. I don't see what the problem is just putting it up saying this was a personal piece. If I was given this opportunity, this is what I would have done. Yep. I've done personal pieces a lot, and I would definitely, I'm confident to say that most of my work, 90% of my work, comes from personal projects. Yep. Because personal projects is the only thing where a client can't come in and mess things up, or, so they're seeing it as what I would have done. And I still think my personal projects are always my best work.
So one of the things is, I'm here in Melbourne, you're there in Adelaide, both in Australia. How have you been able to build a business and build up a really strong client portfolio of NBA, MLB, 2K, Under Armour, Foot Locker, NBA teams, AFL teams, just from Adelaide? Is it? Did you figure out this remote working and being able to connect with people on the internet before everyone else did in 2020?
I think I must have. I've definitely had opportunities to leave. I've had plenty of job opportunities in the US to work full time and stuff like that. But I've never wanted to work full time in sports for one team or one, an agency or something like that, or a brand. Just because I feel like I'd just rather do different projects. Like I don't want to kind of narrow in on one thing. And for me, like, I guess the reason why I'm still in Adelaide and never moved is I'm not a risk taker. Like I'm very I'm a very, introvert. And I don't really, I'm not kind of like out there, and I'm not outgoing. So Adelaide's great for me because it's really small town. Like I even think Melbourne's too big to move to. Like, I've gone there a few times and met a few people, and people are like, "Oh, you're crazy not to live here." Like, all the sports teams are here, and the businesses and stuff like that. And it's like, no, I'm just happy in Adelaide. I'm quite old Adelaide, where I can just sit in my little office and do work. So I don't know. I think we'll see more like
I mean, it's a completely valid model. Like, I'm working with teams from Melbourne, and again, like I don't want to be in other parts of the world, especially in this current environment. But like, and I actually think post 2020, I think there'll actually be more opportunities because, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of people being furloughed or stood down, and we'll move to more freelance, a bit more of a fluid staffing model. So I actually think there'll be more people working that way, going forward, which should give, both greater variety in work, but also greater variety in the creative and some of the assets that are coming out of teams and leagues.
Yeah, I mean, to a lot of people's surprise, like honestly, like so when I started working social media, I did like social media, the digital and social media design work and branding for the NBA. I think I started in 2014 October, I think it was.
Yep.
And they had such a bad experience working with an agency before. They were like, "No, we can't do it anymore. Like this agency is horrible." So they thought, let's just go out and reach out to fans of the game, like fans of the NBA that can do the work. And since then, up until I think 2020, which is actually interesting, that's 2020, but between 2014 and 2019, their entire design team for social digital were external.
Yep.
And I don't even think one person was in New York. There was someone in Paris who I'm friends with, someone in London who I'm friends with, someone here, me, but someone also in Melbourne. And there was a bunch of people all around the world, and none of us worked internally. We were all remote workers, all freelancers. And that every graphic you saw for 5 or 6 years was done outside to an freelancer.
And it just does fit for that creative piece. As long as you're getting the briefs and the assets, it allows you to get down and do the work. Wanted to touch into the stuff from a 2020. You started talking about working for yourself and owning your assets in moving into the trading card market with Project 2020. How did that come about first?
I mean, I've been making trading cards since 2014. I've made trading cards with Topps. I've made trading cards with Panini and stuff like that in the past. I've been working every year doing trading cards, but the Project 2020 just blew up. I understand that it was because of COVID and everyone moved back home. Well, not everyone, sorry, but people moved back home. A lot of people had to move back in with their parents, and it was all this nostalgic thing where, there was no sport on TV at a time, and a lot of people, looked at, rediscovered old things like trading cards and all that stuff. So it was a part of a boom. And I mean, it all went hand in hand with Project 2020. And Topps, they did really well out of it. But us artists, we kind of were a part of it, and we were trying to kind of build it up as big as we could get. And for me, I just saw such a demand, for my work in cards. And it's like, well, my audience is basketball. I've honestly, and this is the key thing here, is that I've done stuff with clients where I'm the artist and I might make $1,000, but the client might sell $1 million worth of work in 24 hours or 48 hours. And it's I look at it and go, hang on, the customer is buying the work, because of the athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just trying to figure out, make it a bit more equitable.
Yeah. They're buying the artwork because of the athlete on it is their favorite athlete, whatever. And they're also buying it because they like the look of it, not because it's it's made by this company sort of thing. So it's well, we can try and we can work around the company thing. Why don't I just start working directly with athletes? And that's kind of just that blew up. The first player I reached out to, Jason Tatum. And
were you able to meet Jason? Were you able to meet Jason when he was out here, or did how that start?
No, I didn't, but I didn't actually. I didn't meet him. I met him in Boston in January. Met his family, Jason and his mum, in January. Yep. But it was, through a connect. But at the end of the day, I can just reach out to any agent. They're very easy to find online, and just put through a proposal for them. But there was someone who introduced me to Jason's management, and went through there. And it's a big risk. At the end of the day, it's like we had COVID and everything. A lot of my clients, were unable to keep me on. And, I've got this, like I had to invest like six figures, north of six figures into just this project. And I was like, I don't even have a sale yet, but I need like a licensing agreement with the player. I need them to, an autograph deal. I need all the, the packaging, printing, all that stuff. I was like, I'm just going to go with it because like the baseball cards are baseball cards blowing up. So I'm going to go myself, make my own trading cards. And then like within like minutes, literally most of them had sold out. And then within probably an hour, the non-rare cards sold, and it was like bang, all sold out. And it was crazy. I was thinking, man, I could have printed more or something like that. But I guess we made them limited edition to keep them desirable. But for me, like it was cool. Like the end of the day is like these athletes, like the way I view trading cards is I grew up collecting them. I loved them as a kid. I thought they were amazing, but I would collect the trading card because I liked the athlete on it. I would try and get all the Laker, Shaq, Kobe, Derek Fisher, Robert Horry, whatever, because I was a Lakers fan. But I didn't collect them because I liked the look of them. I just collected them because it was the player that was on it. And then when I started design I became like in the creative space, I was like, I don't like the look of these cards anymore. I just think it's so boring. It's just a photo whacked on a template, and which is conservative people, traditionalists love it. But for me, it's not so much. And especially the young kids, they love like bright things, like messy things, like it's out there things. And I thought there's a market for it, like in terms of, how about we actually work with this player? So like Jason Tatum, I worked with him and actually built a card that he liked. It's not like a, like a trading card where it's like, this is a Panini card and every single player in the league's on it, and this is Jason Tatum's version. It's just photo whacked on or something. So it was like, we want to create something unique. It had his son's name on it, had a tribute to Kobe, which, is super special to him. And these are cards that the athletes are collecting as well. Everyone that I've worked with, they're collecting it as well. And also like the hobby is interesting because the athletes don't really talk about trading cards. And I think what I've really tried to do is when I work with them, I go, look, let's, just put up a social media post, at least one about the trading card project. Obviously that's good, marketing for me, but also it creates, it helps bring more people into the hobby. And anyone that collects and invests in trading cards, all they want is more people in. And, I guess if, the more players I work with, the more of their fans are now collecting cards, or I can bring more people in. It's just going to boost, hopefully, everyone.
It is very much your rising tides lift all boats. Like you bring in, Donovan Mitchell fans and Kuzma fans and Tyler Hero fans, and then they go, well, I've got the Tyson Beck. Well, I need to collect more. Like I'm the same. I ran a trading card store in Melbourne in my uni days, back when Upper Deck was started, and getting those, the holograms in the early Upper Deck. So I've got a folder full of Isaiah Thomas cards somewhere. My business card for the first 6 years of Sports Geek, I just had all old cards. I had all these old NBA cards, AFL cards, and I just put a sticker on the back and said, "This is my name." So that would be my card trick. I go, "Oh, you're a Lakers fan." I'd pull it and hand you like a Derek Fisher, and there'd be my details on the back. So that was what I did for a while until. Whereas now I've actually got my own trading card, and that's my business card. But my best trick was, but again, terrible design. Me holding up a jersey with Sports Geek on it. But my best trick was just old trading cards because like the nostalgia hit and I also know the people that have got them. They go, I still use, that Kobe Bryant card you gave me as a bookmark, or it's on my monitor. So, got a lot of nostalgia for trading cards, and that's where I thought, it was really cool what you're doing because it hit on a few. Like right time, right moment, exclusivity, the hype nature, like it's in the same space as sneakers, right? You got to get a set and there's only a certain amount, and then their whole players owning it. Like, previously, Shaq would sign with Upper Deck, and these guys, the trading cards companies aren't signing the Jason Tatums and that of the world anymore. So they're more trying to build out their own business like LeBron is and that kind of thing. So I think that's where I think you've done really well. And to get Beckett to name one of your cards the top 20, that's quite the achievement.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, like, that was cool to me because, like, at the end of the day, like, it's printed, it's made in Australia as well. So from my understanding, it's the first Australian card that's made a list like that on Beckett. And I mean, obviously I know there's trading cards here, cricket, netball, whatever, football. But from my understanding, they've never made a Beckett list like that. And, but then also it's like I'm like, it shows like legit, like it gives me like a legitimacy of like what I'm doing. Like, like it's not just like a custom card. Like artists make custom cards and stuff for athletes. And, I guess there's been a misperception in terms of what I'm doing because some people just don't believe that I'm working with these athletes because they're like, oh no, like you can't work with like NBA players. And I was like, yes, you can. It's just no one's done it before. Like it was just there for the taking. And then I think, look, what you're going to see is I can't mention like specifics, but you're going to see this year the big companies doing what I'm doing, working in sports that they don't usually work in, working directly with athletes. It's there's already a few things in the works with some of the companies, and it's made life much more difficult for me because, like you did mention, that these companies don't usually sign up players, but they're signing up players, locking players into exclusivities, making life harder for me because I've had players reach out.
That's the curse of disrupting, right? You're obviously doing right if they're disrupting and, they can't sign all 800 players. The world has moved from wide to niche. So, the guys you're signing are young up and coming stars, but they're not, they're not the top of the, they're not your LeBrons and your Steph Currys, but that's the opportunity. And then, like you said, other sports, other titles, those kind of thing is real opportunity. What were some of your learnings and lessons of like setting up your own trading card business? Like you obviously have the design and the creativity piece, but was there a bunch of things you had to learn to go, I've got to get a printer. I've got to make sure that we're only getting a certain amount done. I've got to, the packaging's got to be on point. The logistics of, people crashing your website because they want to get that particular card. What were some of the lessons of that experience?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing, I was nervous. Like all I wanted to do was break even with Tatum. Like the only thing that I've purchased more than the Tatum deal was my house. Like it literally cost me half a house to do. And I was like, all I want to do is make my money back. And then within like 5 minutes, it was like, oh, I'm at the break even level. I was like, oh God, this is big. And I guess like for me, it was the demand. Like it was actually, I had someone sitting there with me helping like in real time, like, because obviously emails are coming through, questions or whatever, as things were going on the And then when things started getting sold out, I was literally getting death threats in my emails, in my inboxes on Instagram, like because they missed out on the card they wanted. And like, obviously I ignored all that stuff. There was multiple, like at least a dozen of that kind of stuff, like literally really vulgar stuff. But for me, I looked at that as a positive because I was like, man, these people want these cards so much. There's so much of a demand that it's made someone get that angry that they've resorted to like emailing and DMing me on Instagram about how bad of a person I am. And I thought, this is good. This is good because there's a market for it. There's a demand. And then I was like, I'm now confident that I can reinvest into, and everything I own, I reinvest into the next player. So reinvest into Kuzma. But the big lesson for me, so far, I mean, there was like the huge lessons was actually like I had LaMelo Ball on a contract, which would have been nuts. Like he's the biggest name. I was going to have him as the first rookie card, and everyone told me, be careful about this because like, it's LaMelo, it's the Ball family or whatever. And I was simply just used for leverage for him to get a bigger deal with another company. So for me, that's like, okay, not everyone's in it to, support me to build this up with me. So that was the big first lesson, because that card would have been insane to do LaMelo's first rookie card. And, at the end of the day, this is business. So I got to get used to it. And I've never experienced something like that being used for leverage to, someone else to get a bigger deal and kind of toss my contract aside. So, that was a big lesson. The other lesson is basically quality control. So like I started, a lot of the Project 2020 cards that I've got through Tops is I'm experiencing, like, I just see a lot of online, like people are not happy with scratch cases, people are not happy with stickers on straight, all this stuff. And it's like, man, like people really care about these cards being perfect. And I guess you're in the collectible space, people are possibly going to hold this stuff for 80 years or 50 years, who knows? So you want it perfect. So unfortunately for me, that's turned me into a perfectionist. I look at every single card that comes out. Like it comes through me. I have staff helping me, but every single card I sign off on, even like the cheapest card, I sign off. No scratches, no dents, no bad corners, cases all good. And I mean, that's led me to throw out, I got to buy these cases brand new, but like half of them come scratched. So like I've got 5,000-6,000 cases just thrown away because they're not good enough to use. So for me, quality control, because I feel like I just want to make, the customer, when they open it up, the worst thing they want to see is like a bent card or the scratch on it or the case is broken. So, I think the quality control is the other big one I've learned.
But that's very much customer experience. And if you're selling this limited piece, if it's a poor customer experience, then they won't come back. They won't come back for the next one. So, definitely good advice because, if you can't deliver and execute in that piece, it's going to be really tough. Well, what I want to do is wrap things up with the Sports Geek Closing 5. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended, Tyson?
I'd have to say it would have been at that, what were they called? Footy Park. It would have been a Crows game at the Footy Park. I don't specifically know what exact game it was, but it would have been Footy Park in Adelaide to watch a Crows game.
You would have been to a few 36ers games in your time?
I have,
I do remember getting roundly booed at so I was a Melbourne Tigers fan, and we went over for the match and just gave the whole crowd hell all match. The Tigers won, and then we're like, how are we getting out of this stadium? And they said, follow us for the ground, and the crowd and we walked across the court and everyone booed us. There's nothing like getting booed by like 8,000 people. So it was hilarious. But a lot of fun.
I love that atmosphere. Love that atmosphere there back in the day.
Yeah. So you would have been to a few sports events in your time, whether it be here or a couple in the NBA. Do you have a favourite food memory or a go-to food when you're at a sports event?
I mean, for me, you just can't really beat the pie and sauce. You know, I don't know. It's just a classic.
Very much so.
But over in the US, probably best one I've had is. I love good burgers, and I like Shake Shack in America. I don't know if you've tried it before, but the 76ers, I think from memory, have Shake Shack inside the stadium. I think I had one there. So,
they also sell 4 and 20 pies at 76ers games.
Do.
They do. What's the first app you open in the morning? What mentions are you checking, or what are you where are you going to first?
That's I don't know. I don't have push notifications. One beauty of what I don't have push notifications on my phone. Haven't had it for.
Yeah, so you don't have to look. So what app are you going to? The first thing?
Yeah, so probably the first thing I do, I just go on Twitter, just for today, for example. I went on Twitter and saw the trades in the NBA. So I tend to do that. But I like that because like I'm just not starting my day to a bunch of notifications, and that could, ruin your day, or it could make your day. Who knows? But I'd say more often than not, it would be Twitter, just to see if something's happened in the world or something. Yeah,
staying very much still in fan mode, getting up and going, what's Woj saying? Who's been traded where?
Yeah. And that's one big thing, like when you're working in the space and you start building up your clients, that fan mode does get stripped from you. You can't really be very vocal online and be supportive or negative or whatever, and that kind of does hurt. But I try and still be a fan when I can be.
Yep. I mean, it does remind me. Ted Johnson used to work at the Timberwolves of getting that understanding of working in the sports business, and there is that. You've got to remember the second part is business. If you're just there as a sports fan, and he called them jock sniffers, just there to be a fan and follow around. Oh, it's an awesome. I want to have a selfie with the players. He's going out on court. It's like everyone I've seen that's had success understands, well, that person there who is the athlete is there. They're at their workplace. They're working. And so you still have to have that professional nature. Otherwise, no one's going to take you. It's really hard for athletes and team execs and that to take you seriously when you're in full, fan mode. Like, it's great to be a fan of the sport, but you've got to really temper it to say, well, it's all about the work and it's about the business and how I can help you.
Yeah. And if you're in it only for that fan mode, that thrill is going to die within a year. It's going to, it can just become a job. So, is there someone that you follow or read or keep in touch with? Maybe it's another designer that you follow that the podcast listeners should follow, and why? It is so many, and it's a bit like, hey, Tyson, just pick a really good sports creative, and then you piss off a whole bunch of people you didn't mention. So the issue is, like, my favorite, the guys that I kind of started out with and the ones I really look up to and everything, they don't post much on social, so it's not really a great. Like, there's a guy, I know there's a guy in Melbourne, Tak Wong. If you Instagram, Tak Wong, he does the most amazing animation stuff. But he only might post a couple times a year, so it's probably not a great follow, but definitely check him out. Yep. And someone else I really like is Source24 on Instagram. He was like a childhood friend of mine. He, a lot of the stuff you've seen on Bleacher Report over the last, half a decade or 7 years, it's come through his head. Yep. He was, multimedia director of multimedia or something there up until recently this year. So he is outstanding as well. And I think now that he's not with Bleacher Report now, I think he might be probably a little bit more active on social. So I'll probably say Tak Wong and Source24.
Terrific. And then lastly, sort of Kevin Durant style, we ask people to pick what social media platform is your MVP, right? So we're not giving away gold and silver and bronze. We just say, hey, you've got one platform. What's your MVP platform?
I got to say Instagram, I guess. Yep. I don't know. I feel like when they brought out the stories, they were getting like slammed, like this ain't going to go well, and like stealing from Snapchat and everything. And then they stole the reels from TikTok. And it's like everything they do just ends up doing well,
Yeah. So then, like, because a lot of the time, because effectively you're right, it's 3 products in one product. And so initially, like, you would have been doing a lot of your, best work on the feed. Here's my latest work. Do you like it? Double tap. How do you, as a designer who adapt to those other platforms? Do you, how do you tackle Insta Story? Have you bothered trying Reels? How do you tackle it from a design point of view?
Man, I have done Reels with my trading cards, which have been cool. Yeah. I had these trading cards like glow in the dark, so I've kind of made these Reels that show the cards hand embellished in hand, and then bang, like a TikTok thing where it goes glow in the dark, and that's kind of cool because that's kind of added another level to like how to kind of show these products. But yeah, stories is a good way to interact with. Mainly, I don't really kind of put my work too much on stories, but it's a good way to kind of interact with people, answer questions, rather than like you can't really do that in a feed. In the comment section can be hard. So it's really good to ask questions there, and also just to poll people. The polls are really good on Instagram. If I want to test out something, it could be a personal. Do you prefer this or this? Or if I've written down like a list of players who they want me to collab with in the future, and then they give me feedback, and that's helped me. So I think
so it's really using it in that as that survey mechanism to sort of get a better feel for your audience. And that's the thing, you've got that real time, like in the end, they're your end end client. Like you're not having notes with with an agency or a brand. Like you are selling to the end customer. So that feedback loop is really important.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that specifically is why I worked with Tyler Hero, because like Tyler Hero isn't like, like you were saying, he's not a LeBron, he's not a Steph Curry, but in that moment, Tyler Hero was like, he was huge. Yep. So it was like everyone kind of kept, I mean, the feedback, he was literally like, I ran a poll and it was like, he was actually the highest, he was the most requested player for me to work with at one time. Yeah. So I was like, I got to work with him. Like I got to do it. And it just happened. So that was based on, I try and give the people what they want sort of thing. That might be the easy way
to quote Jalen Rose. Then the other one was like from a Reels point of view, what we've found with the sports team to try to figure out what it is. One thing that is different from stories, it's far more shareable, right? Because people see a reel and they share it on their own, whereas they see your story. Like it's not natural. Like you have to screen cap it and share it. Whereas a reel, it's built to be viral. So it really does fit for product, highlights, that kind of thing to go, you don't have to do it every day. And, you're not an Instagram model and that's why people are following that reel. But like if you can do product stuff, the fact that Instagram is encouraging people to share it can give you that reach really quickly.
Yeah, and I feel like when Instagram bring out, like this is just my opinion, this could be completely wrong. You probably know more than me, but I feel like when Instagram bring out a new product like IGTV, like Reels, the algorithm or how it works. I think like I put up a video on my feed, it would get like barely any views. I put up a reel and it's getting like 30,000, like whatever, like it's getting like 10 times the amount. And it's like, are they really just like driving these reels on the Explore tab and all this stuff possibly?
So the answer is yes. Like the answer, your theory is correct. When they open up new stuff, they pull back the velvet rope and they go, let's see how it goes. And they want to push it and promote it. So especially with Instagram, it's early and often, and you can really gain some real good traction there, knowing that eventually they'll turn the switch off and they'll pull it all back and they'll ask you to pay money for it, right? That's their business. But yeah, your theory on early and often is definitely correct.
Okay. Yeah, and also like the IG story you mentioned and Reels, like that, or like how you were talking about the feed, which is interesting because like the feed stuff, like, a lot of people, you only want to put your best work on the feed or whatever, but Instagram story Reels or whatever allows you to kind of like show work in progress and all that stuff a little bit more comfortable, probably more so IG story. But, I think that has opened up a lot of, a lot of opportunity for creatives to share more from the, the backside of what they're doing. I think honestly, I don't go on Behance, but I think they've got stories on there.
Everyone's got stories now. LinkedIn's got stories. That's ridiculous. But like everyone's got it. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. I actually updated Twitter for the first time in like years on my phone because I don't like to update too many of my apps. And then I saw Fleets or something. It was like 2 days ago, and I was seeing stories of them. I was like, what the hell is this? But no one uses them.
No one uses it. Yeah, everyone's tried to do stories and no one does them.
Yeah. So I follow 381 people and I'm on my Twitter now, and only one person has posted a fleet today, which is NBA, which is probably
I was about to say you should name and shame because it shouldn't happen anymore. We shouldn't be doing that.
So the NBA is doing it and no one else is doing it.
So I'm saying 2021 is saying no to fleets. We don't need them. Twitter, you can get rid of them.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Tyson, thank you very much for coming on. Where is the best place for people to find you on the internet? We've mentioned your name a few times, but where is the best place to find you?
I'm probably most active on Instagram and Twitter. So Instagram is at Tyson Beck and Twitter is at Tyson Beck Design. Because Tyson Beck wasn't available. So they're where I'm most active on, and you'll probably get the most out of those two platforms. In terms of following me there.
Terrific. Well, really appreciate coming on the podcast, and when the border closures stop happening in Australia and people get to move around, maybe I will be in Adelaide sometime. We can catch up.
Yeah, or vice versa. I might be your way. So, I really appreciate it, Sean. It was, great to speak to you and great to speak to someone that's been in the industry for so long, especially in Australia. And I think, as Australians, we definitely need to connect more, build each other up more. It's always good to see an Australian doing good things. And, we have a bit of tall poppy syndrome or whatever they want to call it here.
Yep.
So, I mean, you yourself, you've been doing a podcast, like you mentioned, a long time. So, I think, the fact that you're still doing it now is, it speaks volumes. So, I think, we just need to build each other up more, I think, here and, just kind of look after each other. So, appreciate the support.
Find out more about Sports Geek's Digital to Dollars process at digitaltodollars.com. We'd love your support on our Patreon campaign. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon.
Thanks again to Tyson Beck at Tyson Beck Design on Twitter or at Tyson Beck on Instagram. Please check him out. Well worth a follow for all the creative work that he does across multiple sports. And please check out those cards. I look forward to the day when Tyson is creating a set of cards that maybe feature a Gravitas player. Who knows? Just a bit of an update, again, from all things 2021 and what we're looking to do across the content slate, all things Sports Geek, absolutely recharged and ready to crack in after a break, which everyone, I think, needed done in 2020. Some of the things that will be new in 2021, we have got the Sports Geek Amplify series. It's going to be launching in March. Not going to exactly say the date. It's still a little bit of moving target for those of you who know and produce content. But I really can't wait for you to learn more about this series. I really think you'll love it. It's going to be providing some real good solutions for the sports industry coming out of COVID and ways for you to better leverage what you're doing with some really smart tech. So Sports Geek Amplify series is going to be dropping soon. Also, we're going to be launching a Sports Geek guest post series. So if you've got something to say, please let me know. I've been seeing some great insights and articles from people in the Sports Geek listener and alumni community on their LinkedIn articles. So I want to amplify some of those articles in the Sports Geek guest post series. So if you've got something in mind you want to say to the Sports Geek audience, please reach out. Also the Q&A. So last year we did it with questions submitted and I was answering them on a weekly basis. We're going to change that format up and play around with it, make it more of a visual medium and also get more of the community involved. So stay tuned on that one. We're going to get some big questions answered by both myself but then also people in the Sports Geek community. But then what else are we doing in 2021 that stays the same? Sports Geek News returns. First edition of the year went out last week. If you're not getting Sports Geek News on a weekly basis, you really should. You go to sportsgeekhq.com/SGN. We recently passed 365 issues, so that's effectively an issue for an entire year. Over the past 6 or 7 years that we've been doing Sports Geek News, my goal is to share the articles that I think are relevant and that I'm reading with you on a weekly basis. Obviously, the podcast is back. I've got a couple of really good interviews like the one you just heard with Tyson Beck already in the can and really looking forward to what the schedule is looking at. Episode 300, not far away. So really looking forward to that. As I said earlier, the Sports Biz calls are returning monthly for now. So book your spot, sportsgeekhq.com/Zoom calls to book and connect and network with people on those calls. And hopefully I'm lucky enough to be in Melbourne recording this. And if you're listening to this, the Australian Open here in Melbourne will be underway. With 50% capacity. So we're starting to see clubs and pubs and cafes and the like open up. So I actually hope to reboot the In Real Life networking events for those in sports in Melbourne, in my hometown, but hopefully they do return in more cities around the world as we get this virus under control in some way. So if you're planning a networking event, let us know. But until that time, you can do it virtually via Sports Biz Zoom calls. That's it from me. As always, you can find everything you need at sportsgeekhq.com. You can book in for a phone call by going to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. you can send me a DM, you can send me an email, and I really would appreciate if you would become a Patreon subscriber, sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon. I really do appreciate the support of the subscribers that have subscribed so far. You can do it on a monthly basis or get a discount by doing it annually. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
We'd love your support on our Patreon campaign. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon. Want to help drive more revenue from your digital efforts? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.